to strengthen the Jewish identity and the Jewish roots and tradition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member of Knesset Shaked is always succinct, so it's hard to interview her, but it's good to be for when I'm a moderator. And now MK Rabbi Dov Lippman of Yesh Atid.
Thank you so much. Shavua Tov. It's an honor to be here, and also an honor to be on this stage with two members of Knesset who I worked with over the last few years, and with all the people here. One of the things you learn in Knesset is that even if there are ideological disagreements and differences of opinion, everyone that's there is working to try to make things better for the Jewish people, each one in their own way, and therefore to everyone here. It's really an honor to be together with you. Shir HaMa'alot B'Shuv Adonai Shivat Zion Hayinu Kechomim. Hayinu Kechomim. After 2,000 years, we've returned to our homeland. All of us in this room understand the magnitude of what that means, and all of us came here to try to play our part in making the state of Israel better and improve the Jewish people. For me personally, the fulfillment of that dream took on whole new meanings 2 years ago, when I had the honor to be elected to the Knesset and to serve as the first native English speaker in the Knesset in 30 years, and to enter the Knesset together with the most remarkable group of people who shared that vision. Olim from all different backgrounds, men, women, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, religious, secular, working together to try to solve problems in Israel. And because we had that passion, we were able to accomplish so much more in a year and 8 months than I can ever imagine. In the time we have here, I can't go down the entire list. I ask all of you to make sure to get flyers on your way out to see what we've done. And after we're done here tonight, go home and go on the Yesh Atid website and see in English on the links for reforms all the things that we've done. But very briefly, one thing which we promised 2 years ago, the integration of the Haredi community into Israeli society, where we have a draft law which says that we work towards a point where everybody serves the Jewish people together with unity, where we focus on employment. I'm the head of the Knesset task force to help Haredim get to work, and we get an average of 500 resumes per month from Haredim who are saying it's time to leave wherever they are in yeshiva or kollel to support their families with dignity, and we help them get training and help them find work. And that's not only a financial, economic issue, but it's also a unity issue for all of us. And general studies in the Haredi schools, something which hasn't been dealt with in decades, and we finally broke through that, and it's happening, and it's wonderful to see Haredi young boys getting English and math and giving the chance for a future in terms of higher education. To get 1 billion shekel to Holocaust survivors, the first comprehensive national project for Holocaust survivors who now finally get medication for free, dental care for free, optical care for free, and the money goes right into their accounts to help them with no bureaucracy. That's what it means to be a Jewish people who returned home. And finally, number 3, a massive fight against corruption, to get rid of the concept, which we abolished by law, of minister without portfolio, small, efficient government. This is what it is about making this country better. And one last word, Lahav, before you tell me my time is up, and that is Olim. Finally, a focus on making things better for all Olim, including English-speaking Olim, where we abolished a theory test for people who've been driving for years and now can get their license here without having to take a theory test, making it easier for nurses to come to Israel and Aliyah without having to take their licensing when they first come here, but beforehand, and so on, and so on, and so on. The list goes on. I ask all of you to listen to the issues tonight. Hopefully we'll have a positive, uplifting debate, and like I said before, focus on the action. People who are there with passion and Zionism to get things done, and hopefully that will bring you over towards our party, towards Yesh Atid. Thank you so much.
And finally, we have Ashley Perry from Yisrael Beiteinu.
Thank you. Shavua Tov. Is this working? Yes. There's been a lot of vagaries, a lot of empty slogans in this election period so far, so it's time to talk Tachlis. Last Wednesday, exactly 4 years ago, 2 Arab terrorists infiltrated the Yishuv of Itamar. We all know what happened. There was a vicious slaughter of a family, including 2 parents and 3 children, including the almost decapitation of a 3-month-old baby while she slept. These 2 terrorists were thankfully apprehended and brought before trial. The military prosecuting attorney thought about imposing the death sentence, or at least asking for the death sentence, but decided against it. When they were found guilty, the military judge again, thought about imposing the death sentence, which has never ever been imposed except for one man in the history of the State of Israel, Adolf Eichmann. So he thought about the death penalty because this was such a heinous and vicious crime, but he rejected it. These two people are now sitting in prison, and if precedent is anything to go by, they can earn degrees, they can get married, they can have parties, they can hold office like Marwan Barghouti. They can hope with pretty good cause that eventually they will get out by some sort of trade. Yisrael Beitenu has said the first law that we will pass in the next Knesset is the death penalty for vicious terrorist murders. We want to take the decision-making. Once someone has been found guilty, there isn't a decision to be made by the judge anymore. You can't give life sentences or maybe this kind of sentence or the death sentence. We are taking that decision-making process out of their hands. There is one decision to be made. When you viciously murder Jews in their bed, in their sleep, death penalty. That is it. That is the only decision that can be made. This will return deterrence because too many people have looked at the 4,000 terrorists that have been released over the last few years and in the hope, there used to be this belief that don't give them the death penalty because they want the death penalty, they want death, they expect death. Not anymore. They go in knowing, wait a few years, get your degree, get married, and you'll be back in our terrorist infrastructure within a few years, thinking about perpetrating the next one as many of the terrorists released have. So if you want the death penalty for terrorists, and it's uncomfortable for me as a person from England, where we don't have a death penalty, to talk about this issue, but we've tried everything else. We need to disincentivize terrorism. We need to disincentivize those who are thinking now how they can kill us, how they can destroy whole families. We need the death penalty, and we need it now. Vote Yisrael Beitenu, and the first law that we will bring to the next Knesset is death penalty for vicious terrorists. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to begin now with questions. I'm going to ask a general question for all the candidates, and they'll each get a turn to answer. And like I said, we will have rebuttals if anyone says something negative about anyone else. And I may intervene with my own questions. I let you all go free in your general's opening statements, but I'm not going to let inaccuracies slide for the rest of the hour that we have. So we're going to start out with the topic that public opinion polls say is most important to Israeli voters. I haven't seen a public opinion poll what's most important to Anglo voters, so this is the general Israeli population, and hopefully the rest of you feel the same, just because it's what's first. We're going to start with housing and the cost of living. And I'd like everyone who was part of the last coalition, and we'll include Yesh Atid in that because they were there until the last few days. My question for the people who were part of the coalition is, well, this was a major issue in the last election too, and what has your party done to bring a change or not bring a change in the last 2 years, and what do you plan to do moving forward? And with the opposition, what do you plan to do differently to lower the cost of living and especially the cost of housing, which has continued to rise? I think we'll start with Ashley, since he was last. 2 minutes each.
2 minutes? Okay, thank you. The government knows how to spend your money. A lot of my colleagues and a lot of election campaigns will tell you how we're going to spend your money, and they'll say, we'll lower the cost of living by doing this, we'll raise this, we'll lower this. I'm going to tell you, Yisrael Beitenu, how we can make money. In Yisrael Beitenu's government ministries, we have made money. How have we done that? Since we took over the tourism ministry 6 years ago, there were about 150,000 tourists coming to Israel every year. Today, there's 750,000 tourists coming every year. For every extra 100,000 tourists, there are 4,000 jobs. There are tens of millions added to the budget. Another thing, Aliyah. Many of you may have come through the Nefesh B'Nefesh. Well, that funding came from the Ministry of... Nefesh B'Nefesh definitely deserve a round of applause. The funding for Nefesh B'Nefesh, large parts of it came from the Ministry of Immigrant Absorption. I think Nefesh B'Nefesh did a great survey a couple of years ago and figured out since they were around, which has coincided and enlarged between Yisrael Beitenu's control of the ministry, I think the Olim have contributed something like 10 billion extra shekels to the budget. And that is large part because of the investment by the Immigrant Absorption Ministry. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things. We like to talk tachlis. I'm not going to throw out slogans. 2 issues, 2 laws that we're going to pass. One is, I know many of you pay exorbitant rent because you quite simply can't find the down payment to pay 33% of the payment of a house, right? At the moment, the law is you have to find 33%, a third. Many people can't. What we're going to say is those who serve their country, those who contribute to society, will get a 90% mortgage. You only have to find 10%. The government will subsidize the difference between the current amount, which is 66%, and 90% for those who serve their country. Another thing is, I don't know about you, but I have 4 kids, and my wife and I, we're always talking about who's going to get home in time for their kids, for Tsaron, etc., etc. And sometimes we can't even afford Tsaron. Yisrael Beitenu says every single person who serves their country, every single person who contributes by working and paying taxes will get free Tsaron from the age of 6 months to the age of 6, because then we can ensure more people will come into the workforce. A husband and wife can both work full-time.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you very much.
I have a follow-up question for you. Something that I've been thinking about since Orly Levy proposed her 90% mortgage proposal. How is that different from the subprime mortgages that destroyed the U.S. economy?
First of all, that was a symptom of the problem. That wasn't the problem itself. And second of all, the government is only going to insure for those who can prove that they're able to. We're not talking about giving everybody. One of Yisrael Beiteinu's basic principles is those who contribute to society should benefit most. At the moment, we have this absurd situation where those who contribute least are benefiting most. For 66 years this has been happening in Israel. It's about time a party came along and said, we've got to change this. Those who contribute to society should benefit most of society. So those who can prove that they work 125%, who can prove that they can pay the mortgage payments, will get a little bit of extra help from the government. So it's markedly different to what happened in the US. And we want to incentivize people to go out and work. We want to incentivize people to contribute to society, because enough of those members of society who contribute least benefiting most. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, MK Lippman, please tell us what Yesh Atid has done for the economy and what it plans to do moving forward.
Absolutely. It's an amazing thing. We came into office and immediately discovered that we were dealing with a 40 billion shekel deficit. I'll never forget, Yair Lapid sat with us and said, we have to pass our first budget. It's going to be a difficult budget. We'll be unpopular. We're going to make cuts all across the board, but get things back on track and reduce the deficit and the deficit target. And that's what we did. And then for a year, we planned a 2015 budget. A budget which was supposed to pass for this January 1st with an increase of over 10 billion shekel to all the social ministries, 4 billion to health, 3 billion to education, 2 billion shekel increase to welfare to take 190,000 of the senior citizens of this country and bring them above the poverty line. Now, this sounds like a campaign promise when I tell you that we want to do all that without raising taxes and this whole budget. Where is that? Well, this is the budget. This is what a state budget looks like. We spent a year planning this budget. It is ready to go. The key is in the ignition. We want to get back in office and do that. It will bring down the cost of housing drastically and especially help the neediest in society. Our philosophy is take the neediest and help them, and those who are capable, get them to work. Exactly what I opened with before, especially within the Haredi community, but in general, get people out to the point where they can go to work. Now, the amazing thing is, you can do that without raising taxes. How do you do that? This booklet explains how. It's by fighting corruption. There is money everywhere, and it's being wasted and going to all the wrong places. But when you say, we're going to fight corruption, and we're going to go and get the money from hidden profits of corporations, we're going to make sure the government is not spending your money without knowing where it's going, then you're able to have an incredibly social-minded budget. That is not just a campaign promise. It's here. It's ready to go, and we look forward to get back into office and getting that budget passed, which will bring down the cost of living dramatically for all of you and for all of Israel.
Go ahead, Ayelet Shaked.
Okay, I just need to say something to Mr. Perry. There is life sentence already. Okay, so there is a death penalty. Sorry. There is a death, it's not mandatory, but there is a death penalty. Last time, a judge...
Mr. Perry, you'll get a rebuttal.
Just a second, it's important. In 94, a terrorist got a death penalty, but unfortunately it was changed to life sentence and he was released in Shalit deal. The problem is that the persecution is not asking for a death penalty and not that there is no, that the law is not good. Regarding house rating, the housing minister, Uri Ariel, did exactly what we need to do. He increased the supply in order to meet the demand. This year, he released to the market 50,000 units of housing. The demand, by the way, is 40,000. And unfortunately, in the first Netanyahu government and in Olmert government, they released between 20,000 and 30,000. This is why we have a problem today. So what we need to do is to increase the supply in order to meet the demand. Next year, Uri Ariel is planning to release to the market 60